Warhammer is an expensive hobby. It's an expensive game. But why is it expensive? Is it the cost of the miniatures? Is it the cost of the rules? Can a 3D printer be your means to playing Warhammer cheap? How practical is it? Let's dive in. All right, so I'm going to show you some cool 3D printed minis. I'm going to be showing you some examples of what you can get. I'm going to be talking about this in general around proxying units and using units, stand-ins or other styles, unique styles, custom bits, all that kind of stuff in just a minute. But a quick shout out to Into the AM. They make cool shirts just like this. As you guys know, they're amazing. They fit great. They feel great. And you can get a 10% off discount code in the description below. So feel free to check that out. They actually are doing a 25% off sale right now, but it's just ending. And my 10% goes on top of that. So you can get 35% off if you go down in the description below and check that out. They have some amazing stuff, as you can see. But enough of that. Let's dive into this issue right here when it comes to how expensive Games Workshop minis are. So I think that is by far the largest expense people feel they have when playing Warhammer 40,000, Age of Sigmar, or whatever. I'm going to be focused on 40,000 right now. I'm sure there are other examples for stuff like Age of Sigmar or even their old style fantasy stuff, Lord of the Rings, all sorts of stuff. There is a plethora of 3D printing options out there, and guess what? They're way cheaper. And especially because once you buy one, you can print more. That's one of the big ways that Games Workshop makes their money. Isn't necessarily by making cool design minis. Isn't even necessarily by having a whole lot of units. It's by making it to where you have to buy multiple boxes to be able to do different things, or you magnetize or something like that to try and save a bit of money. And even then, often that's not practical because the chess pieces are different or something like that, and it just doesn't work out. So I'm going to show some examples here, and we're just going to kind of talk through like costs and what you can do and stuff like that. First of all, let's start with why you would want to do this. Besides saving money, well, I think a lot of it is just customization, right? So for instance, my wife has a Death Guard army, and I printed this. So what this is it's all kind of Nurgle-like, right? Nurgle-like. It's Death Guard-y. It has like corruption in it, and eyeballs and intestines and teeth and stuff like that. One of the nice things about being able to customize things is theming things in a certain way. So I'm going to show you right now, this is the Immaterian God miniatures. And there are so many out there that do their own unique kind of thing that can stand in replace of a Warhammer miniature if you choose, or vice versa, or whatever, you're just painting projects. They do this really cool thing where they actually have like a underwater theme kind of thing that works similar to like a Death Guard, but it's definitely their own thing. It's very much, like a different style that you either like or don't like, and that's totally fine. You don't have to get everything. For this tank in particular, I thought this was pretty good, and I think it fits fairly well for what I wanted to stand in as. So you can see you have a whole bunch of other options, and they can stand in if they want. It's very different. If you want an underwater themed Death Guard-like army, totally fine. If you want to take one piece of it and just use that because that matches what you're looking for, you can do that. I think that's great. I think it's awesome. It's a great way to customize. Customization can handle in a lot of different ways. Here's an actual Games Workshop miniature, but you'll see custom backpack. So you can customize bits, you can kind of play around with that. Now the one thing, warning, when it comes to 3D printing is obviously they want you to buy their miniatures, Games Workshop does. And so they are very stingy about what you can do tournament-wise. So if you're playing in a tournament, you definitely need to pay the cost of the tournament, which really isn't the cost of entry, it's the cost of having Games Workshop miniatures proper and not doing any customizations, which is unfortunate because I think this kind of stuff is great, that you can accent their miniatures very well with stuff like this, which are just kind of cool. So another issue that you can have is really expensive stuff like Forge World stuff, right? And, well, you can get some stuff. I'm not going to link to where this is, of course. But if you searched, you could probably find this. It's a Necron unit. Stand-in for a Forge World. Some are very exact. Some are minor differences. Depends on what you're looking for in your game. But if you're just playing at home, and that's what you're just trying to do is enjoy the hobby, you can totally do that. This costs $10. This costs nothing. This also cost me nothing. It cost me a couple bucks in resin. Obviously I'm going to use this in a Tyranid army, and obviously it's pretty close. So you can totally do stuff like this. Some cost, some don't. But regardless, again, that cost is a one-time purchase, and you can print multiple. One of the nice things about this, for instance, on like this little wasp kind of guy, a lot of little parts, a lot of small parts. And sometimes they get lost. Sometimes they break. Sometimes they might go missing. Or I like this arm and gun, but I only get one copy of that. Well, when it's a 3D print, you can just print another one. So you can constantly update your army. You can constantly replace your army. You can constantly upgrade it. Now, I've shown units, right? Just single units. And so, yeah, sure, you can find single units. But how practical is it to field an entire army? In fact, how practical is it to field a army that's known for like being kind of a swarm thing where you have a whole bunch of them, right? Well, let me redirect you here to the Runes Guard Complete Imperial Guard Army and WTC buildings. This was a successful Kickstarter that made quite a bit of money, and for about $70 USD, you could get that. That includes all of those minis. And in fact, again, you can print as many as you need. So really you have one copy of this, one copy of that. Again, this is their own creation, their own theme. It works in line with something like perhaps if you wanted to sub them in and use them as proxy for Imperial Guard in your casual games. Totally, by all means, do that. And it has everything you need. It has the tanks, it has the buildings, it has stuff like sentinels, it's got all sorts of stuff. So $70 plus the time and resin on a. I printed these on a Mars 2 Pro, so sub $200 at this point on sale. You can get them very cheap. It's an older printer. It prints obviously great quality. As you can see, I've not felt a desire besides how big of a printer to upgrade because the detail on here is already insane. So yeah, $70 and you have an entire army, infinite. You can print as many as you want forever. It is very much possible to play Warhammer 40,000 on just less than $100. Literally, you can do that. It is totally possible. And then if you go to like one-page rules or something like that, even easier. By all means, I buy a ton of these. Games Workshop gets a ton of my money. I love their minis. I love the design of their minis, and I'll buy them for that. They're quality. They're fun to build. They're exciting. I love the theme of them. Like this Death Guard stuff with all the bells and stuff. I like that. I like that more than the underwater theme. So I buy that. I'd buy the underwater theme if I liked that more. And I'm just a simple consumer. But the idea that Warhammer 40,000 is expensive to play, not true unless you're in a tournament. That's really the only time you're going to have an issue with that. If you go into your friendly local gaming store and want to have a session and a person fusses because you lay down this and they're like, oh, hey, I don't like that that's, not that, or this. First of all, when it's painted, you can't even tell. But if it is slightly different themed or whatever, and they don't like your custom underwater themed Death Guard unit, don't play them then. There's plenty of people you shouldn't play. So if they have an issue with a fairly, like, I can understand if it's like way out there and it just doesn't look the same at all and it's a chore or whatever, that's fine. In which case they're choosing not to play with you, not the other way around anyway. But for the most part, as long as your proxy's pretty close, you can even do pretty well out and about. But again, casual at your home, do whatever the heck you want. I think it's awesome. It's a great way to accent an army, accent an already expensive hobby, and already expensive game with something that allows you to customize it a bit. So you can have that Nurgle themed thing. So it's not just, oh, I have a Land Raider and I painted it green, now it's Death Guard. Like that. To me, that's boring. And yeah, you can hobby it, and you can spend all that time doing that. But often the hobbying part it's just adding stuff onto it more than anything. Unless you're great at sculpting, you can't do the more custom things like, a big bulbous, gun or something like that. That's something that great sculptors online can do, and they can either give it away for free or sell it as a thing that you can enjoy in any way you see fit. So anyway, yeah, I just got done building this guy, and I realized exactly how free I am from Games Workshop when it comes to enjoying Warhammer. and I think it's a great place to be at. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them down in the description below. I've printed quite a few bits and bobs, like I said, like backpacks and stuff like that, custom guns. You know, often they'll give you, you know, oh, every unit can have this weapon, but we only give you one of the weapon in the pack. And it's like, well, that's dumb. Print your own weapons. Do that. And then you can field them as you wish. You still bought their model kit. You just didn't buy 10 of them because that's stupid. Anyway, yeah, so I think it's totally possible. I would have said no if it was just single units. But when you see stuff like this Kickstarter, when you see stuff like that Patreon, that constant is like, hey, this is my creation of this underwater themed kind of it's similar to Death Guard thing that you could totally use as a proxy, and they're fleshing it out and adding all kinds of vehicles and units and stuff like that. I think it's great. I think it's awesome. And I can't wait to get a Death Guard, you know, demon prints or whatever else that I can find online. I think it's great. And honestly, at that point, Games Workshop literally doesn't even sell an option for that. So a lot of these themed units don't really have a model or aren't in print anymore, right? The Lord of Contagion, stuff like that. So yeah, definitely, I think take a look at 3D printing. If you're at all wondering if it's possible, it totally is. All right, guys, that's it. That's all I had for today. Have a great one. Take care. Bye, guys.